Hello and welcome to Market Views, a podcast series of Open Business Council and JPFS, where we discuss financial and trading news, interview key personalities, and engage with our audience. Today, we have a special guest, Nicholas White of GAIA Cap, and my co-hosts, Peter Kristensen from JPFS and Adam Hill from SGT.
Thank you, Hilton, for the introduction. Today, as Hilton mentioned, joined by Nick White from GAIA Capital Management and Peter Kristensen, CEO at JPFS.com. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you very much for spending the time with us today. I'm going to jump straight in. Nick, GAIA FX Plus, it's a very exciting strategy. Would you be able to tell the viewers a little bit more about the strategy behind the program? What the investors can expect when they invest in it? You know, stuff like how long the program has been live, your historical net results. Just give us an overview, if you would, and a taster of what's in the program and what investors can expect.
Absolutely. Thank you, Hilton. Thank you, Adam. And hi, Peter. Good to chat to you guys today. So the FX Plus program is GAIA Capital's flagship program. It is a trading program covering 29 foreign exchange and commodity pairs, which include the major G10, G12 FX pairs and crosses, plus gold. It's a purely systematic trading model that we've developed over the last 20 years, which includes, it's technically orientated. And so ultimately it only accounts for price action and takes no bearing of any fundamental inputs whatsoever. So it's black box-esque and runs independently 24, 5.5 days a week. We'd consider ourselves, I suppose, a trend-following program, although there are elements of mean reversion and statistical probability within the models. And I think the key to the success over the last 11, 12 years has been the systematic, repeatable approach which the model takes, which naturally removes emotion from the market. And the algos can continually scan for pricing opportunities. Now, the algo is ultimately a rules-based program, which means that each of our inputs must be aligned in order for a signal to be generated. So if, for example, there is a trend occurring in the 1 hour or 4 hour timeframes, then all of the inputs must be aligned in order to signal a trade. If only 6 or 7 of our inputs are signaling a trend, but not the 8th or 9th, then there will be no trend. There'll be no trade. We won't initiate a new trade. So ultimately, we are constantly scanning multiple timeframes across all 29 instruments, looking for an entry point. And that's pretty much the FX program in a nutshell, systematic trend follow.
Thanks. I mean, Nick, could you tell us a little bit who would be an ideal client for this? What kind of profile would an investor have who would be interested in GAIA FX Plus?
Sure. I mean, we have a multitude of investors ranging from high net worth individuals through family offices, through institutions and private banks. To be honest, we may come to this in a moment, so I don't want to preempt the next question, but it's available to anybody now through the JPFS program. And I think that's the beauty of this partnership, is that it is bringing what were perceived to be out of reach hedge fund strategies to the general population.
Exactly. Thank you. And you've been live for quite some time now. Could you give the viewers just a taster of the historical results since the program's been live?
Absolutely. So we started GAIA Capital back in 2012, originally with proprietary capital, and solely concentrating on the FX majors, euro, dollar, cable, dollar Swiss, dollar yen. Now, over our 11-year history, we've produced an annualized return of 37.62% with a volatility of 16.8%. Now, a general rule of thumb is that your annualized vol should equate to around your maximum drawdown, which in our case was in 2019 of 17.42%, I believe. But overall, again, I go back to the systematic and repeatable process. We produce positive returns 78% of the time. So that's 78 months in our 11-year history.
Thanks for that. And perhaps we could look just briefly on the downside. That's the upside for investors. How do you manage
Absolutely.
risk? How's risk managed within GAIA Capital for this program?
Sure. I mean, without being too precise about things, risk is a multifaceted word. Are we talking about counterparty risk? Are we talking about trade risk? For us, we manage risk on many levels, but I think for ease of this conversation, if we just concentrate on the risk from a trading perspective, the models have risk inbuilt. So once a trade is initiated, automatically at the placement of the trade, there is an inherent stop loss and there is an inherent profit target. And as the trade develops, the ultimate stop loss becomes a trailing stop loss, which follows the trend up and allows the position to create greater value as it moves forward. So in terms of our managing risk, all the positions are managed independently by the model. So the risk in dollar yen may not be the same as the risk in sterling CAD, for example, or the risk in dollar Swiss may not be the same as the risk in euro yen. But they are all managed independently by the model as the trade develops. And from inception, risk is placed. So we know our maximum risk per trade. And therefore, on a portfolio level, we know what our maximum risk tolerance is going to be. As I touched on briefly, I think the worst month we ever had was back in January of 2019, where we took a 10% drawdown. 2019 wasn't a fantastic year for the program generally, and we ended up down 17% for the year.
Thanks, Nick. Now, you mentioned obviously on the risk, how that's managed on the trade side, but could you tell us how are you working with JP Fund Services and the investment platform trademakers to manage risk? How do the two companies work together to mitigate risk really for the investor?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the partnership we have with JPFS is very exciting for us because it opens up an entirely new community of investors that we've not previously touched upon. As I think I mentioned earlier, the barriers to entry for most hedge funds and even our managed account programs are quite high. And so that has proven to be the domain of the institutional investor and the high net worth individual for many, many years. The way that JPFS now is opening this up in a secure and professional manner is really opening the scenario for us to increase both assets under management and our client base at the same time. Now, in terms of risk, we operate using the MetaTrader platform. Now, the MetaTrader platform has been a mainstay of the retail foreign exchange business since back in 2005 when it was first launched. Their MetaTrader MT4, MetaTrader MT5 programs are commonplace on trading desks globally. Now, we as GAIA manage our risk on, as I said before, not only at the trade level, but in terms of our disaster recovery, in terms of our redundancy. We have a 99.98% uptime on our servers. And concurrently, JPFS and the carrying broker have the equivalent from their side. So there is never a point where the either latency risk or execution risk can be magnified because we're covering it from both sides.
Understood. Listen, thank you ever so much for spending the time to elaborate and explain that to some of the people watching. I've just got one final question, which keeps coming up and came up this morning in a conversation with a client at SGT. Is GAIA Capital Management regulated? And what kind of regulatory cover do you provide?
Absolutely. So GAIA Capital, we're registered as what is called a foreign exempt firm, as a CTA, a commodity trading advisor with the NFA in the US. I mean, I personally hold the Series 3 FCA qualifications in the UK and have been an approved principal with the NFA for over 20 years. So the thing with foreign exchange is that it is a lightly regulated industry. except for the carrying brokers, which obviously have greater regulation. But from a discretionary manager perspective, a CTA, as we're known, we are covered by the NFA in the US, the NFA, National Futures Association, and the CFTC, Commodity Futures Trading Commission.
Okay, so that's great. So investors have triple sort of security with you, with JPFS as an investment advisory firm in Switzerland that operates the Trademakers platform, and also with SGT Markets, where which is the counterpart. And that leads me quite nicely on to the next question, Peter. Obviously, people keen to invest in GAIA FX Plus. Where do they go? How do they find out more about the track record and the strategy in their own time? And ultimately, who's the custodian? How do they actually get started, place money into the program, and get going?
Yeah, that's a good question. What we've done is we tried to make it as simple as possible. We use SGT Markets with the FSC license on BVI. That's been there since 2006, founded by the CEO, Martin Price. What a client actually will do is can go to SGT Markets, can also go to JP Fund Services, but mainly actually to see the historical data of GAIA FX Plus on Trademakers, and you can actually open an account there. What we've done is it takes 3 to 4 minutes to open the account, and then you also get the transfer details from that. Again, as mentioned in the beginning, open the account with SGT Markets under the FSC license that we actually had there. I think we were a number 1 and number 2 on BVI to get the big broker dealer license there. And that's it. Very, very simple. It doesn't cost anything to open the account. It doesn't cost anything to participate in the program in itself. It doesn't matter if you got 250,000 or you got 5 or 10,000. As Nick was saying in the beginning, we opened this up so us ordinary investors have the possibility to have managed our money with people like Nick, which normally is not possible.
Thanks. And one other question on this, Peter, is we've seen in the news the last couple of months, if not the last few decades, of investors being very, very concerned about their money suddenly sort of disappearing. Not just the American banks and the Swiss banks, but some brokerage houses as well. What security is in place for investors in this program or any program on Trademakers?
Yeah, sorry, my dog is actually barking outside, but that's life. When you actually place your money with SGT, we actually place also all our money with many different banks and many different brokers. So it's not just placed with one entity. So it's actually spread around. Why we're doing that is simply also to get the best execution prices that we can actually get for managers like Nick and for GAIA FX Plus.
Okay, thanks for that. So if someone's interested in getting going, obviously they go to Trademakers, as you just suggested. But can you tell us, what are the all-in costs of investing, and how quickly can they get their money out if they choose to change their mind and put their money elsewhere?
In a way, there's no direct cost. Normally, if you want to enter a program or a hedge fund, there is execution fees, there's custodian fees. We've taken all that away. You open the account, you place the money, you go in and tick the box, like say, I would like to place $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 with Nick's GAIA FX Plus. So in a way, there is no extraordinary cost for placing minor amounts. And what we also done is, without actually any influence of what Nick is saying or seeing actually on his account, is you can actually get your money out on a weekly basis if you want to. One thing that's really important as well, I've been involved in 200 or 220 different hedge funds, then it's also important to make it easy for the manager so the manager can actually concentrate on the market, concentrate on the strategy, instead of concentrating a lot of administrations and so forth. So we try to do it easy, very cost efficient, but also very efficient for the managers.
Thanks, Pete. And finally, my last question really for both of you is, if you could summarize it, what are the main advantages for people looking to invest in GAIA FX Plus via trademakers and SGT instead of coming to you directly, Nick?
Sure. It's the economies of scale. As I touched on earlier, the domain of the hedge fund world has typically fallen to the institutional investor and the high net and ultra high net worth individuals due to the initial high entry initial subscription value, say, to a managed account or a fund. With the way that JPFS has structured trademakers, that has removed that barrier to entry. And obviously, clients, we have external clients that we manage with SGT, and I have to say we've been very happy with, as have the clients. We get a secure custodian, we get a historical executing broker with a flawless reputation, and as Peter rightly said, they remove the back office administration headache that managers such as ourselves have to handle on a daily basis. So all we have to concentrate on is providing a good performance.
Thanks, Nick. Peter, do you have anything to add on this last point?
No, I got to say, Nick came with all the good answers. I got to say that. But also, if you got a saving of $200,000 or $100,000, that's a lot of money. Now, if you want to go into one program, you got one shot with the normal entity, normal way of doing it. Here, you can actually dip your toes into it and say, do you know what? I'm going to test it with 10 or 20. Then I'm going to add a lot more if I like what's happening. And that's it. You can test it out with a minor amount instead of actually have to put up $100 or $200 or $300,000. And I think that's the benefit. And it opens up for a manager to a whole new market that they normally won't or wouldn't have actually access to because of the administration. We take all that away, but also make it simple to do it. And for one account, you can, within 3 minutes or 4 minutes, transfer the money to the account and say, I'd like to participate. You get the statements on a monthly basis, and very, very simple.
Indeed.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. So it looks to me as if this is something which we covered a few weeks ago, Peter, when we introduced the idea of fractionalized investment. That obviously from the manager's side, Nick, we could hear today. Thank you very much for your very kind words. But it's clearing the path for you. It's opening up new marketplaces for you. It's also removing a lot of the administrative burden, which makes sense for you. And for the end investors, they get the benefit and the peace of mind of knowing that their money is being managed by professionals, actively managed by professionals who've been doing it for more than 20 years. So all in all, it sounds like quite a compelling proposition. Gentlemen, thank you once again for your input. Hilton, I'll leave it to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Nicholas, Peter, and Adam. And we very much look forward to our regular podcast on market views. Follow us on jpfs.com and openbusinesscouncil.org. And please engage with us on these links, as well as on LinkedIn and Twitter, and send in questions for our next episode. So goodbye, and thank you for watching.